First and foremost, I'd like to wish each and every one of you a very happy Thursday, and thank you for joining us for this month's Accelerate Series webinar for the month of November, where our topic is introducing a brand new feature that we just released a couple weeks ago, relationship maps. You may or may not have even seen relationship maps or are curious where to find them or how you can use them. Rest assured, we will cover all of that today. Couple housekeeping items. Is today's session being recorded? Yes, it is. When can you expect the recording? Probably within the hour after our session concludes today. Those of you that are enterprise clients, some of you I may have to submit the recording for approval before I can send it out. So if you don't receive an email from me, just know that you'll have access to it as soon as it gets approved. Other than that, let's go ahead and get started today. If you do have questions throughout today's session, please just use the chat feature in Zoom, and I will make sure that we get those questions answered. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. For those of you I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Leah Jean McHenry. I'm our senior training manager over here at Asset Map. I've been here almost 5 years. Can y'all believe it? Some of you I've known for quite a while. I see lots of familiar names in this list, but I also see some folks that I have not had the pleasure of meeting with yet. And I hope that we'll perhaps get to do a one-on-one or work together in the future. That being said, a couple housekeeping things for myself. I do have a dog at the house today. However, Zoom does a great job of cutting out any background noise, so you won't hear her snoring because that's what she's currently doing, and I will have to listen to that. So here we go. All right, in terms of our agenda, I want to cover our topic today, which is all about introducing relationship maps. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about what relationship maps are and overall what their value is and what they can bring to the table. Then we're going to hop in app and we're going to give a navigational overview. I'll show you where to find them and I'll show you how to use them, how to create them, how to adjust them. I'm also going to give you a couple demo examples. So I've kind of pre-built a couple examples today. We'll also create one together. But this way you can kind of start thinking about all the different ways that you might be able to start leveraging this incredible feature and tool. Now, if you have questions throughout, use that chat feature in Zoom. If it's applicable to the group, we will get it answered. If it's a one-off private question, you can still feel free to ask me. Just stick around at the end and I can, chat you back, or you're always welcome to reach out to our support team if you have any case specific questions outside of the material today. Okay. End of story. We are always here to support you. And I hope you know that because I'm very passionate about our product, but I'm very passionate about making sure that you all feel successful in using our product. And so if you have questions or you're like, I'd really like to learn how to market Asset Map better, or I'd really like to learn more about target maps, or like how to build out certain planning illustrations. Like these are all things you can lean on our team for. So if you're not doing that already, I'm going to suggest that you start. So let's go ahead and kick things off. Let's talk about what relationship maps are. And I kind of actually have one built behind, and we're going to create this from scratch today as well. What I want to discuss here is that relationship maps are designed to allow you to take the different members and entities that make up the household and ultimately be able to create your own little custom illustrations to have meaningful conversations. Okay. The value that relationship maps bring is they're going to help you build stickier relationships and go deeper and quicker than ever before. I believe that relationship maps will also help us facilitate multi-generational planning conversations like the example we'll build together today. I also think that relationship maps allow us to understand the client's money story a little bit more, their life ambitions, their legacies, their goals that they want to leave behind or achieve, life lessons. Perhaps this is learned through, ancestors and or influencers that they might be passionate about. I believe relationship maps allows us to lay the groundwork for conflict resolution. And sometimes taking the instruments, the financial instruments out of the conversation can be really necessary for us to just get into some of those nitty-gritty items that we might need to. Other ways we can think about leveraging relationship maps are to have conversations where we can, isolate executors of a trust or, trustees or guardians or power of attorneys, so on and so forth. Sometimes we want to take the asset conversation out of it and really talk about the members and the entities that make up our households. We can also leverage relationship maps to know the client's quote unquote team, right? Who do they consult? Are there multiple people that are a part of their financial team? Now, this could go across investments, insurance, estate, taxes, right? Maybe we're going to build some of those relationships furthermore so that we can do the best planning possible for our clients. All right. So, without further ado, I would like us to just go ahead and hop right in application. And that's what we're going to do today. And I'm going to show you where you can find relationship maps. All right. So, let's get going. The first step is you need to be in a household, okay? When you're on a household summary page, or even if you're just like on an asset map, it's fine. You need to be in a household itself. Where you're going to find this new feature is it's going to be in the left-hand side of your menu in a section here called relationships, okay? Now, this, for those of you that have been on our platform for quite some time, this used to be called members. Okay. We've updated that language and we did it intentionally with the release of our newest feature. Okay. So when you click into the relationship section, this is going to be, let's go back here. Okay, when you first click into it, it's going to look just like this. So ultimately, what it's going to be is it's going to be the list of the members and the entities that make up this particular household. Okay, so it's no different than the visual list that you saw before when the term was used members. Okay, so when you come into this section, this is where we can see all the members and the entities that make up this household. We can also add people that should not be featured necessarily on their physical asset map report, but we might want to bring in for conversations like other personal relationships or other entities, or perhaps some professional relationships that we just need to make note of, right? We don't want it flowing through to other areas of the application. You do have the ability to come in here and add a new professional relationship. Professional relationships do not flow through to the asset map report itself. Basically, this is just a way for you to kind of log some context and people that you might need to have their information available. If you add any personal relationships, however, when you add a new personal relationship, you can determine, do you want this person to be included in the household? Yes or no. Okay, you can also mark whether or not they're considered a dependent. So no longer you can actually like associate people with the proper relationship status, and then you can mark whether or not someone is a dependent. So a couple enhancements that have been made there I thought I would point out for the group. Scrolling to the top of the screen, where you're going to find relationship maps is through the toggle on the upper right. There's now going to be an option here that says map view. Now, let's address an elephant in the room. And this will only be applicable for a very small percentage of people that perhaps are on today's webinar and or are going to listen to this recording. If for any reason you do not see this as an option, it's likely because you're an enterprise client, which means that we've submitted this new feature to your compliance team and we're just waiting for it to be approved. Okay. So if you don't have access to this, that's likely going to be the case that you're an enterprise client. If for any reason you don't see it and you believe that you should, you can reach out to our support team and we can look into that for you. Now, the relationship map section, when you open it up, if you've created any, it will go off of, it'll show you one that you've created. So this is one that I created prior to today's training. And ultimately, what I've titled it is called Business Conversation. So the purpose of this particular relationship map is that I wanted to isolate the business, which is an entity, and I wanted to isolate the members that are tied to the business, which is my primary client, Neil, and also his business partner, Hank. Both of these members and entities were already added into the application. And so ultimately, what I chose to do is I chose to take them from down here in the docking bar, which will showcase any members and entities that make up this household. And you have the ability to add them to a relationship map. For example, if I was to click on Paul, the brother, right, it adds him to the relationship map. I could then drag and drop or move him around to have a conversation. Maybe we want to talk about him getting a piece of this particular business. Maybe I added him on accident. When you hover over a member or an entity or even a text box on a relationship map, there's three options here. The exit mark will remove this member or entity from the map. So if you click remove, it just puts them back down in the docking station, okay? However, let's move him back over here. If you click the pencil icon, this allows you to actually edit the actual members' information right off the bat. So this allows you to quickly make edits to their contact information if you need to. This trash can button, I'm going to be honest, you basically should probably never use the trash can button, especially with members and entities. Why? Because if you delete or use this trash can, it would not only delete Paul, the brother, from this relationship map, it would delete that member entirely from the asset map platform. Now, if you're unaware, we do have a little bit of a fail safe built into the back end. A lot of people forget about it, which is if I accidentally delete a member or an entity and I didn't mean to, or if I accidentally deleted an asset from the asset map report and I didn't mean to, you can pull that information back as long as you catch it within 30 days. Okay. So watch, if I accidentally click this trash can button and I click yes, and I'm like, dang it, I didn't mean to actually delete this person completely. I thought I was just removing him from the relationship map. Well, guess what? To pull him back, because look, now he's gone and now he's not in here. So I could just re-add him as a member from scratch if I wanted to. But if I'm like, I don't have all this stuff that I already typed out in front of me, that's frustrating. How can I get it back? All you have to do is this. Go to the household summary page of the household, click edit next to the household name, and look for the option here that says deleted items. Under deleted items, you're going to have two tabs: members, which will show any recent members or entities you accidentally deleted or deleted on purpose and want to bring back, or financials. This will show, hey, any policies or things that you accidentally deleted off the map and you didn't mean to. Coming back to members, all I'm going to do is I'm going to select Paul and I'm going to say restore selected. Okay, so he's going to get restored. Now, if I go back into the relationships section, by the way, however you leave relationships, so if you stay on the map view and you leave the relationship section and come back, it'll bring you back to the map view. So if you want to go back to the listed view instead, you can just click this toggle icon here. So if I go back to the listed view, I just want you to see down below, he's been restored. He's been added there. And if I go back into the relationship map itself, you can see he too has been added into the docking station. Okay. Now, when it comes to relationship maps, if you are building one completely from scratch, it's going to look like this. So I'm going to click new down here on the bottom right. You're only going to click new if you want to create a completely new relationship map. So I'm going to click new. Once I add new, okay, it will default. It should just default the primary client and the spouse. In my case, it also added in the brother. If I wanted to remove him, I just use the exit mark. Okay, remember, don't use the trash can button unless you want to delete them completely from the platform. So if I click exit, it just puts him back in the docking station. Now, what I like to do is I like to zoom out a little. If you turn your eyes to the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you can kind of zoom out with the minus or zoom in with the plus. There's also a third option called fit view. When you click that, it just kind of fits to your screen. It tries to look at the size of your screen and fit it as best as it can. If you have a mouse that also has the little scroll bar on the mouse, I also use that to scroll in and out to kind of zoom in and out as well. And then you can kind of drag this on the screen. So let's say that I am interested in building a relationship map to have a generation conversation, okay? Because there's a couple different generations here that I might want to illustrate. So I might start with the primary client and the spouse. That's perfectly fine. But I'm going to add Mimi Jetson. She is the mother to Neil and Paul. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add Mimi Jetson. By the way, this circle that you see is called a connection. A connection is basically just a circle with these 4 dots, and you can drag, or rather draw lines from the dots to the dots if you wanted to use this in that way. You can also attach 2 tiles by simply drawing the 2 dots together if you prefer it that way as well. If you wanted to delete a line, you just click your mouse on the line so it's highlighted and then click the delete button. Okay. In addition, I'm going to check the Q&A and make sure we're good here. Okay. If you click any of these lines, you can just delete them like that. If you wanted to get rid of the connection, you can just click it and you can delete as well. Okay. Just use the your delete button or backspace button on your keyboard. Okay. Now, if you wanted to add a connection back, down here is your additions bar. So this is where you can add a new connection. Again, if you didn't want it, you just click on it and click your delete button. Should get rid of it. If you wanted to add custom text, you can just use the add text option. Now, I've been loving the text boxes personally when it comes to relationship maps. So what I like to do is I'll add like a text, and I might call this generation Gen 1, okay? And I can move it up by Mimi, right? Because she's generation 1. Now, what I might also want to do is add Paul, because Paul is the brother. So I'm going to put him next side by side next to Neil. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a connection between Mimi and Paul and Neil, because those are her two sons. Okay. Now they're a part of generation 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new text. This one I can put over here, or perhaps I might want to rearrange these, which, by the way, if you want to, you can just drag and drop them just like so. So I might say, you know what? I kind of want Paul to be over here instead. I'm going to move Lauren over on the other side. I kind of prefer this look and feel. The great thing is you can move it all around and do it exactly as you see fit. So what I might do here is click edit and call this one generation 2. Okay, I'm just going to use abbreviations for today. Then I could put that over on the side, kind of keep this consistent. Next, I could add Barry, who is the son between Lauren and his wife. Between Neil and his wife, Lauren. So I can draw a connection here if I'd like to as well. Okay. From there, we can also go ahead and click text, and I could go ahead and add this in. Okay. And I could call this generation 3, just like so. So I really like that. The other thing is the emoji features do flow through into the text boxes. So something to consider here is if you wanted to be able to illustrate, like, for example, you wanted to add some type of an emoji into the generations, for example, you could just right click your mouse, click emoji, and you might put something in here. I don't know, we'll do the $ for now, just as an example. But if I go ahead and click save, it actually adds it in there as well. And I could do the same thing and click into these other text boxes, and I could, add an emoji. Now, again, we're all business professionals here, so we're not going to get crazy with the emojis, right? Obviously, it needs to be things that are appropriate and probably applicable to the things that we're discussing. But I actually like these because they're visually very appealing. Okay. And so as I'm building this out, I need to save my work. I cannot stress this enough for all of you. Okay. It does not auto save. So you're going to need to auto save it, or excuse me, you're going to have to manually save these things yourself. The first step should be to build your relationship map. Immediately come to the bottom and click save. Okay. Just save it so it's saved. Now you need to rename it, because otherwise it's going to go in this list and it's going to be called new map. And that's confusing. You don't want that. So just click into the name. Okay. Double click into the name here, and you're going to give this a new name. We could call this generation conversation. Okay. So you're going to give it a name, and then you're going to click off to the side, and it's going to update here. And then just to cover my bases, I'm always going to click save again. Okay. Once a relationship map has been built, you can come back to it anytime, and you can continue to kind of play around with it. If you want to lock the tiles down, you can go ahead and lock them down through the lock icon on the bottom left. When you lock it down, what it's going to do is it's never going to let you move a tile or edit a tile once it's in the lockdown mode. That can be particularly helpful if you wanted to lock a relationship map down that you're going to be presenting, because perhaps like you don't want to accidentally be moving tiles around. That can be kind of hard for people to track and or follow along. The great thing is you can unlock it at any time. If you unlock it, then you have the ability to edit and or remove text. Just be mindful that if you remove text from the map, it gets deleted completely. And so if you wanted to add it back, you'd have to manually add additional text. Okay. Down here, you can also add a member and or entity completely from scratch. So while I really envision relationship maps predominantly being used, after you've gotten a decent amount of data added into the application, you might actually find as you start building out more and more relationship maps, other members and other entities come to mind that you might want to physically add into this household in Asset Map moving forward. Okay. There you go. Okay. Now, in terms of some questions coming into the chat, will the demo examples that I'm showing today become samples in Asset Map that you can use? As of today, that's not currently available, right? So the examples I'm showing you here today, like I've custom built on my own. Any feedback that you have, like if you're like, it'd be really nice if there were some sample relationship maps kind of pre-populated and asset map that we could work off of moving forward. It's not something that's currently built, but if that's something you'd like to see, you can click on your main menu on the upper right hand side and submit that as feedback. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question there. You're welcome to submit that feedback if you like. If you wanted to be able to move a couple different tiles at a time, if you hold your shift key down, okay, hold your shift key down and kind of highlight a couple boxes, that allows you to kind of move them in a group format, to kind of be able to multi-select. So just something to consider. So again, you just kind of hold your shift key down, just like so, and then you highlight whatever boxes that you want, and then it moves them as a group together. Okay, just double click off the side. Double clicking in the middle of the screen will zoom in like this, but as you can see, like sometimes when you're sharing your screen, these boxes become very big. Again, you can just use the subtraction zoom out option over on the bottom left and or zoom in on the right. Again, you may have noticed I have been zooming in and zooming out without even touching these. Again, it's because I have a mouse that has the little scroll bar. And so when you're on a relationship map that's not locked in, you're able to zoom in and zoom out. Now, let me give you a couple examples of some other ones I've done. Again, anytime before I switch to a new relationship map or go to create a new one, I always click save. I cannot stress that enough. Okay, so make sure that you're clicking save as well. Here's a couple other ideas for you to consider. Okay. This is the first one I showed you. This was going to be the business conversation. So, what I chose to do is I isolated the business, the two business partners. I put custom text boxes to kind of cover the percentage ownership that they own. And on the left, I added some custom text for some questions I want them to consider, like let's talk about a business buyout strategy. What's our succession plan? And then I also listed off some action items. Do you have to do this? No, I'm just trying to give you some food for thought here, okay? And again, if you want to modify things, like maybe I find these long lines to be a little distracting, I can just click on it and remove them. And again, to make this update so that this saves, okay, that this saves to be that those updates that I just made save permanently, I have to click save down on the bottom right. Otherwise, it will not save. Okay. So please just be mindful of that. Here's a couple other examples. All right. We recently had an advisor that reached out to some folks over on our customer support team. As you all know, our customer support team is the best. I'm biased because I'm also on it. But that being said, I'm biased for a good reason because I actually believe that we all care about you and your success. We had an advisor that came to us that was like, I actually think that I could use relationship maps to do what I was doing on like a whiteboard format before, which was I'd write out like their income budget and then I would put like what their salary is, and then we'd kind of have these like three buckets of life, right? Everything's manual. I mean, the text boxes are incredible though. So like as you can see in this example, I've kind of illustrated that here. All of these are just custom text boxes that have been added. We edited the text, we named the things that we wanted, we put the proper things under, we drew the lines where we wanted to draw the lines, we put some emojis to kind of make it look visually appealing. Okay. And again, if I wanted to add members and or entities to this relationship map, I can just add them by selecting their names from the docking station. If I didn't mean to do that, it's fine. You just click on the person and click the exit mark. That will just remove them from the relationship map and put them back down at the bottom. Now, I built a special relationship map right before today's training because I got inspired by an idea, which I thought, well, you know what? You could use relationship maps to really talk about anything from like real estate opportunities to business conversations to estate planning to talking about your CPA and your power of attorney and what they can do for you. But we can also use it for things that we might be planning for, and we'll likely maybe use target maps to actually show and quantify are they on track. But maybe before we even get there, which by the way, if you mess around with it and you try to switch to a new one, it'll ask you, do you want to save it? Yes. But as a best practice, just click save. Okay. Because there's nothing worse than when things don't save for you. I actually built an example here to have an education conversation. Now, I got a little crazy with it because I just thought, listen, oopsies, what's this error? No, 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 we don't need that. Let's go back here. I'm not sure why that populated. Sorry. I have a, okay. Let's go ahead and refresh our screen here. Sorry about that. Oh, and now we're playing music. Okay. I hate to sleep with one eye open. What's happening? Okay, everyone, give me one sec. Okay, my computer is actually having a moment, so that's all right. We're going to do this, and we're going to refresh our screen. So sorry about that error. We're going to bring it back. Simultaneously, my computer decided to spaz out while I'm giving a presentation. We love that for me. In addition, it started playing music from my Spotify. So, hey, I love Teddy Swims. If you recognize the music, he's a very good musician. All right, there you go. I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to the education one that I was showing you for Barry. And just as you can see, I built out a pretty extensive one here. Everything was made with text boxes. I just wanted to have a conversation about, let's talk about some education prep for Barry. He's 10 years old. But listen, college is going to come up faster than we know it. So they currently live in the state of Texas. I wanted to just give them some current, average bands of kind of what things are costing based off the research that I did. And then simultaneously, I wanted to show them kind of what out of state tuition looks like at West Coast schools versus East Coast schools. Now, this could change over time, right? But I thought this would be a valuable way to be able to kind of illustrate some different things. You can also use relationship maps for, listing out some really clean action items and next steps. But hopefully, in the few examples I've provided to you today, you can get excited about what is, available here for you to have the flexibility to build these different things out. Okay. Everything when it comes to relationship maps is manual. So if you're like, would I be able to illustrate, transitioning? For example, I saw a question come in. Can I show transition of a business to one child of owner, but other assets going to the other children? Again, assets do not flow through here to the relationship map. So if you're just trying to have a conversation regarding the business and how the business might get distributed to the kids, then maybe you start the conversation in the business relationship map that you built, and then maybe you'd put the two kids. Again, if you're not sure how to potentially build it out, you can also schedule one-on-one time with someone from our team. You could say, this is what I'm trying to show, like, how do you think I can use that? And in some cases, if you're trying to be able to show financial output, like it might be a um, compilation of things. Like you might be building a relationship map to start the conversation and then pivoting into target maps to show, assets and things like that. Because again, assets do not flow through here into relationship maps as of today. Now, let's talk about a couple things that you should keep in mind, okay? You can create up to 10 relationship maps per household. So there is a cap as of today. It's 10, okay? If you have multiple maps created, relationship maps, excuse me, you're going to use the change map option in order to flip between them. This is why naming criteria is so important. If you see anything in this list that says new map, it means that you forgot to rename a relationship map, okay? The only way that you're going to add a new map completely from scratch is by clicking the new button here. Pay close attention to what buttons you're clicking because I'll be honest, in the beginning when I was first creating some of my comprehensive relationship maps, I accidentally clicked new instead of save, and it didn't save the work that I did. Now, that can be easily avoided by simply coming to training like this, where you can learn from people like me who've already done it, okay? And I'm just telling you that save button is going to be your best friend. If you realize that, you don't want this relationship map anymore, you can click the delete button and it would remove the relationship map completely from the application. And if you wanted to bring it back, you'd have to rebuild it from scratch. Okay. Now, the big question that often will come up is, hey, will I be able to have these relationship maps be on a printout deliverable? In our first release of relationship maps, that's not currently available, okay? So when it comes to a deliverable or a report, the only relationship report that you're gonna have as of today is the list view, which is this view. So a list of the members and entities that make up the household. Now, I believe our product team is exploring being able to try to make it so that we can have relationship maps be on a report printout, but that's currently not available at this time. It will likely be an enhancement that we make in the future. Okay, so just stay tuned for that, or if you'd like to see that, you can submit that feedback here. Again, in your main menu on the upper right, you just click feedback and you can say, would love relationship maps to be on a printout. like I said, I already know that our team is currently exploring that, but I know some people really like to submit the feedback, and if that's the case, then you're welcome to do that. Okay. Um, Yes. As of today, to my knowledge, there are no shortcuts when it comes to relationship maps, but that's a great question that just came in. And I can certainly take that feedback back to our product team. Somebody suggested, a way to do like a keyboard shortcut to do like a save option. Currently not available, but great piece of feedback I can submit. Let's see, other questions that came in. Your music is great as you are. Oh, thank you so much. I'm honestly really embarrassed that my music started playing out of nowhere, but hey, at least it's Teddy Swims. Like he has an incredible voice and he's an incredible artist, so that's great. All right, let me look at additional questions here in the chat. Can clients update fields in relationship maps themselves or can submit for us to proctor and add? Great question coming into the chat. As of today, relationship maps will not be made available on the client's portal. So they're never going to see relationship maps unless you choose to host an interactive meeting and you digitally present this to them. Because again, as of today, relationship maps are not on a printout deliverable. And in general, with the client portal and how it stands today, the client portal is a read only access. Now, our product team is currently exploring making an enhancement where clients would, if you gave them permission, so let me be clear about that. If you gave them permission, they would ultimately be able to make suggestive edits and you would either approve or deny them. I believe that that's where we're going in the future when we make that release. For the longest time, client portal was only read only. All of our advisors agreed, like you cannot let clients make edits to things unless there's like an audit log or an approval process. So our product team is currently testing and exploring what that looks like as of today. Our hope is that enhancement to the client portal will be something that's made available in the early new year. I don't have an exact time frame, but you can expect it likely in 2025. Okay. But to the question regarding relationship maps do not flow through to the client portal. Clients will not be able to create relationship maps on their own. They will not be able to edit your relationship maps. This is strictly a tool that is on the advisor side as of today. If you accidentally delete a member that has accounts associated with them and then back to restore them, does that also restore the associated accounts? You know what? That's a great question. I actually haven't tested that before, but great question. We could test that. And if you stick around after today's webinar, I can do that. But since it's slightly off topic for the webinar today, I'll table that for now. All right, I think I did a pretty good job of answering all the other questions that came up here now. One of the things I'd like to ask the group, if you don't mind, though, is I am going to just very quickly populate a poll onto the screen, and I just want to know if you love Asset Map. A lot of you have been with us for quite some time. My hope is that everybody is loving it. But if you do love Asset Map, would you be willing to leave us a quick review? And the only reason I ask that is because, listen, there's a lot of people looking for technology that's going to help them elevate their practice and provide better service to their clients. And so if you love AssetMap and you would be willing to leave us an honest review, please just feel free to answer that honestly for me. If you are willing to leave us a review, I'm going to post the link right here. You can just click on that and you can open it up on a separate tab in your browser right now. And then you can fill it out for me as soon as you get done. Okay. Again, another question just came in. Can asset tiles be pulled from the asset map report into a relationship map? No, not as of today. Relationship maps are strictly for members and entities, but you do have custom text boxes. So I suppose in theory, you could add a custom text box. You could call it, like Neil's 401k and put the value, but it would be all manual. As of today, that's currently how this feature works. So good question in the chat. Assets do not flow through to relationship maps as of today, but if you needed to illustrate an asset, you could just add a custom text box and name it whatever the asset is, put the value if you want, and kind of go from there. All right. I actually have one last poll for the group. And really, this is just so that I can better create training for you all in the future. I would just love to know, in regards to Asset Map in general, are there any other topics and areas that you'd like more training on? Nine out of 10 times when people fill this out, I'll just follow up with you in an email because we probably already have training on it available. But if you're saying things like, I'd love to know how you can use Asset Map for estate planning, or I'd love to learn how to market Asset Map, as part of my brand value proposition, or I'd love to learn more about target maps, or I have, very unique products I'm not sure how to illustrate. Like those are things that you can reach out to our team about. We can work with you one on one. But be honest, like fill out this question for me. And if you type something in there, I will follow up with you because I care about you and I want you to be successful. And that's just how I feel about everything. So there you go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. All right, so in terms of us wrapping up today, if you'd like to learn more about relationship maps, don't forget you can click the chat bubble on the upper right hand side. That opens up our support options. You can live chat questions to our team, you can email our team. You can also click here where it says search for help. This is where you can simply just type in relationship maps like so. There's going to be a couple options here for you. Relationship maps here, you're going to option number 2, you can click on it and it'll open up a really great user article where you can see a couple other examples, some video examples, some screenshot examples. Okay, just some things for you to consider. As of today, these examples you would have to manually create on your own, but you could just leave it pulled up on the screen and then you can recreate it in your households if you see fit. All right, so a little bit of food for thought there for the group. And of course, you can watch this recording back. Now, in terms of us concluding today, I would like for us to conclude by just talking about some brief next steps. In terms of our brief next steps, I would love for you to just stay tuned for our next Accelerate Series webinar. We'll be doing one taking place in December. We will give promotion on what that will be probably in the next week or so. For those of you that said you love Asset Map and you would be willing to leave us a review through the reputable G2 site, I gave you the link in the chat, so please feel free to click on that there. Also, please stay tuned for boot camps in 2025. We are going to be hosting a boot camp once a quarter next year, especially if you're on our elite level subscription. You definitely want to make sure you come to boot camp as there's a significant discount included in your subscription that you can attend. Okay, so just make sure you stay tuned for 2025 because I hope to see you there. And other than that, that is all I have for us today. So please stick around and ask any final questions in the chat if there's anything outstanding. Other than that, I hope you're excited about relationship maps and can see the power on how we can leverage them to dive into conversations, dive deeper, get to know our clients better, and more importantly, really be able to grow the trust that we have with the people that show them that we're going to provide them the best planning possible. All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording here.